We would like to begin our podcast today by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today.
The Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to their elders, past and present, as well as to emerging leaders.
Platform. They've got to go searching for any place to do feedback.
Well, you can just cross all that out because apparently you can't give us any feedback. But if you're a friend listening to it, then you could give us some feedback.
If you got cranky with them about not giving you feedback,
no, I haven't. I have not got cranky with them.
Okay, I think we're talking to Yell again.
So, feedback.
Forget it.
People out there. I won't say any more. That's probably enough, isn't it?
Welcome to the podcast again. You're speaking, and no, you're not speaking. You're listening to Janine and
Kevin. Welcome back.
Oh my goodness, I feel like we've got to start now. Redo that.
No.
No, okay.
No, it'd be a waste of space on the disc.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about connection. And when we've begun to talk about this, Kevin, we found it's a little bit more complex than first thought to actually discuss it.
Yep. It goes a lot further. I got to a point when we were talking about it just before this that I couldn't actually find words.
Yeah.
So I could do the first bit, what it was all about. You asked me what I thought connection was about. I spoke about it, then we spoke about it, and I said it goes deeper than that, and I couldn't quite find what I meant.
It's very tricky.
Yeah.
I'm going to start by telling a story. So, as a counsellor, I'm required to do professional development, and I particularly went to a workshop a couple of years back, and it was a workshop on deep connection. And I remember the title, and I thought, yes, none of this airy-fairy stuff where we...
Deep.
Try to connect with people. None of that. It's the professional development, learning and knowledge and information we were going to get was on deep connection.
Diving right in.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I went to this workshop, and the particular person who was taking it talked significantly around the importance of connection, and they talked about all the ways we disconnect. We were given a handout that we could use as an inventory.
You got it with you.
I have.
Yeah.
And it's got on it things like the ways we disconnect, which is immersing yourself in activities, distracting yourself, talking a lot, being aggressive, acting in an arrogant way, criticising others, becoming cold or prickly, pushing others away. It goes on and on and on about all the ways we disconnect. The interesting thing is we did an exercise talking with people in our groups that we were in around the ways we disconnect, and pretty much that was the entire workshop about the ways we disconnect, not on the ways we connect. And I was so frustrated and angry. I couldn't believe that we did a whole workshop and the presenter didn't even talk about how do you connect. I think they said a fluffy thing around when you're walking with clients down to your room or to wherever you're going to be counselling them, you might talk about the weather or the garden, and they're nice things. But I don't know. I didn't gain anything from that.
Was there a part two? Maybe part two was going to be about connection.
I wish. Well, if there was, I didn't hear about it. But it was fascinating. Everyone thought it was so fabulous, and I was so annoyed that I'd paid $300 or so for this half-day workshop that the best thing I got out of it was an inventory handout, piece of paper which I have in front of me that talks about the ways we disconnect.
Nobody else said the same thing as you? No?
I don't know. Not with those people I was talking with.
But they were professionals?
Yeah.
Said with feeling.
So I want to talk about connection because I think it's so important, and I think it's the primary reason why people develop addictions and become distressed and anxious or angry because they feel disconnected or get cut off or get dismissed or they dismiss themselves, all of that.
A lot of addicts, a lot of drug addicts, myself included, I don't know really which comes first, but find themselves in isolation and therefore disconnected from everything, which also eventually includes themselves. And so the great part of their life is just a big hole. So drugs feels that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
what else are you going to do with that hole? If you don't have a safe and a healthy, gentle way to connect with someone or people,
Well,
then
there's the thing, there was, but I didn't know in how to do that.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have any concept that that existed.
Mm.
So when you were talking about, that's why I asked if they were professionals. You know, when you were talking about, I was thinking about just the disconnecting development day. I think, well, yeah, most of us know what disconnection is
Yeah.
because we spend a lot of time disconnected. And I have to admit, even though I've just heard you say that I have a much easier time knowing that I'm disconnected. Because it's so familiar. But these days, knowing that I'm disconnected, I know what to do about it. So it's
All
very
right.
different.
Okay, so if you were connected
Yeah,
to yourself
yeah,
and perhaps to me,
yeah.
then how would you know?
Well, I'd have to take those one at a time because I can't be connected to anyone or anything else unless I'm connected to myself. I
Okay.
can be obsessed, which is not connection.
Okay, so
Yes.
how would you know if you're connected?
Well, because I just know. I just feel lighter, clearer.
Yeah.
Likely to be less agitated or grumpy,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, just there, just very present, and able to extend that
Okay.
to everyone and everything around me if I
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found recently I'd forgotten that we were doing connection today, it's my want. But the last couple of weeks I've noticed, particularly when I'm around other people and talking to them, and they'll be, actually it's mostly men, and they'll be, I say something to them, and they not only don't answer, they talk about something else.
Mm.
And so, me being me, I'll repeat it,
Yeah.
and maybe a little more firmly, and they carry on talking about something else. That's really disconnected. So my only way of handling that is to go, yep, that's enough of that. I'll go talk to somebody else or do something else.
Are you saying that the other person was disconnected? Yeah.
They weren't.
They weren't
They weren't
listening?
at all present. Not
Yeah.
in any way at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except their body was there.
Yeah.
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 And I think from my experience of that with men, it happens a lot.
Okay.
With people I don't know, with people I do know. Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it can happen with all people,
Yep.
and they might just do it differently. I know that you've said to me at times, "Are you okay, Janine? Is something happening for you?" And because you'll feel it,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, and I'll say, yes, this is happening, or I'm worried about this, or I've just got to do this, and then I can do it, and then I'm here with you, and we're more
Yeah.
connected, and then I can be fully present to me and to you.
I seem to be quite good at that. I asked a friend the other day, I said, "You okay?" And she said, yeah, I'm fine. I just said, "Liar."
So is she still your friend?
Yeah, she's still my friend. She
I think
talked
it's
to
a
me
loving
about-
thing to say to a friend, that.
Yeah, she talked to me about what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, my background in terms of designing software since I came to Australia has been centred around communications, computer communications.
Mm.
And before that, it was in England, it was designing games. Believe it or not, those two things have quite a lot in common. So I would be able to be really connected to what I was doing, but I think I said at the beginning, or I thought I was, but it was, I don't know whether it was connected, it was obsessed really.
Okay.
But I was getting paid for it. I used to joke in London that many of us did, people say, what do you do for a living? Design games, write articles about designing games, stuff like that. Oh, you're lucky. Yeah, I get paid for what I love doing. So yeah, it was really, really good. But it can swallow you up. So there's an obsession side to it.
So apart from that,
Yeah.
what were your relationships with people like at that stage?
Well, because I wasn't there, they weren't very good. There were some of them, that's not true, some of them were with my partner at the time, my daughter's mother, who we're still friends. We've been separated for 30 plus years, 31 years I think, and we're still friends, which is good. We brought up our daughter between us, which was very, very good.
And if you think about good and considerate, caring moment, if you think about any of those that you may have had in life from someone who really listened to you, then those moments stay. And when I think about those, for me, they're deep connection, even if they're a moment. I remember my dad used to say to me, I'd say, oh, do I look all right in this? And Dad would say, Janine, you look good in a sugar bag. He believed that.
Yep.
I know that. And
Yep.
it was just such a lovely thing for him to say to me. And that stayed. It's two things. It's the person's genuine connection with themselves and their core belief. If Dad had said that and he didn't believe it, he would have been dismissing me, and he was just saying some random shiz that he thought he'd say.
Yep.
We were both genuine with each other, and for me, that was a deep and shared connection.
So that just raises a question. I mean,
Yeah.
that's great, but for me it raises the question, like, can we be that connected all the time? My
Oh.
experience is that I can't be that connected all the time. I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that, but maybe the goal isn't that. Maybe the goal is to continue to come back to you.
Yeah, that I
And-
can do.
You
So
wanted,
we're back.
you wanted to add something about
And I wanted to add something, and now I know why I wanted
Connection.
to take a break as well. So I was aware that I wanted to add something, and I was a little unsure. So, however it's come about, it doesn't really matter. But when I think about connection, I think about connecting to myself first, which is for me is connecting to my inner child, Kev, and through Kev, being able to be comfortable with that and let it go, and through Kev connected to whatever it is that's out there. You know, I'm not a religious person, but I am a spiritual person. Whatever it is that's that power greater than me, that higher power, or whatever you want to call it. And that when I do that, when I let that happen, then I'm absolutely connected to everything else around me. Absolutely, without a doubt. And I can feel it as I'm saying it.
Okay.
So that's what connection means to me.
So I guess if we're talking about a deeper connection, you're talking about spiritually as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I wanted to say that for me, I'm aware it wouldn't be for lots of other people, connection is a very spiritual thing.
That sounds wonderful.
But it might be because of my history, it might just because I'm who I am.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
I don't need
that
to know.
I can forget about that spiritual side at times. I think I've been brought up very Western, and that can often dismiss or diminish or not put an emphasis on spirituality, and I can risk forgetting about that. And I don't want to, because I do think similarly, if I'm aware of my spiritual side, then again, as I'm connected to my body, that they're almost intrinsically linked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that will include my inner child.
Yep.
So I might talk about, for those people who don't want to talk about inner child, might talk about my inner needs
Yeah.
or my feelings, and often that can be our vulnerable feelings or our feelings of joy, all of those things.
And it has power. It's an
Absolutely.
incredible power.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, I'm really glad I said that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to change it up again a little bit, and I'll tell another story about a small connection that happened where I went up to the dog park with Asha, and there's a whole group of neighbours that meet at a certain time, and I can go to a couple of dog parks so I can meet different neighbours, which is fabulous. And I meet these group of people up there, and two of the ladies up there had noticed that I'd driven up with Asha and then gone to the dog park and throw a ball. And then at different times, they both said to me, "Oh, you drove up, Janine. Was there a reason?" And I loved that. I often walk up to the dog park, so they were familiar with who I am as a person, what I do, and they noticed when I did something different. And I'd hurt my knee.
Okay.
And the interesting thing was both of these women had noticed me. And I think that is really important to me, that somebody had listened and noticed who I was as a person and noticed my patterns of behaviour and noticed when something was different and did the lovely checking in thing. For me, that's around connection. And when somebody does that with a caring concern, that's them choosing to be connected to me, and I just think that was a loving and caring thing to do. And when that's experienced, it's a delight.
Yeah. And then really, out of a group of people, if it's only one person, that's enough, isn't it?
It is.
I on Saturday, I bought a few things. I bought this jacket,
Yeah.
lovely jacket, just about fits me. It's like this, so it's multicoloured, but slightly darker shades than this. Of course, you can't see it. I've got a rainbow type jumper on. So the jacket's a bit like that too. After I've been playing basketball with some friends, I put the basketball back in the car and took the jacket out and put it on and walked into this room. And there was maybe 20 people in there, and as I walked past, I think some of them noticed, but only one of them actually said something about the jacket. Doesn't matter what they said. So I just thought, wow, that's it. And I'd done it on purpose. I had done it for some effect, because I'm known for wearing really bright colours. Yeah. And this jacket is incredible. It's a really smart, well-tailored jacket and outrageous colours.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
But just one person was
And I was going to say, and it felt good to be noticed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was else that you said? Somebody who knew me well enough to not
Yeah.
just notice,
Yeah.
but to know what that meant for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, oh, you wore that in here, didn't you? Just because? I said, yes.
One of my favourite things is when a friend comes to visit me in my home, friend or family member, and they come and they know me well enough that they feel welcome in my home, and they will walk to the cupboard and they'll make themselves a tea or coffee, or they'll offer me one, or they'll grab themselves a drink. Oh, just grab a drink. That is, again, it's like a
It's
connection.
connection.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
The statement for me is I feel safe enough
Yeah.
in your presence. And I mean, for some people, they might want something different in their homes. And so
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is for all people.
I'm realising
But-
there's different types of connection.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
might not be different levels, it might just be different types.
Yeah,
So maybe there's a connection podcast too.
maybe. I guess the core part of it is if you're connecting to yourself.
Always, for me anyway, always.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I learnt about it, because I was totally disconnected, not necessarily from other people, but from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the other
Took
thing
me
I would
some
add,
time to
just
learn that.
as we're talking about it, is there's different levels of connecting to yourself. So connecting to what's actually happening, like that important listening to what am I thinking, and how's my body at the moment,
Yep.
and also
Yep.
that other element that we talked about in terms of spiritually, if that's something that you choose to consider as part of connecting with yourself?
It's usually my thinking that gets me back to being connected. It's like, oh, why am I thinking about that? So then I go, so why am I thinking about that? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Done that, I can let that go. And that leads me back to being connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's that noticing and listening.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So important.
So important.
I'm thinking that we've covered this topic considerably for the moment.
Do you think we've done it as well as your workshop?
I think maybe we've done a tad better than the workshop. And I won't apologise for that.
No, I didn't expect that you would. Okay. Well, here we are again, and Janine, we've gone back to connection.
We have. The thing is, it's such a complex topic with so many components in it. Not that it's complex to connect with someone, it's more that trying to explain it is really difficult. We agonised
Yes.
over this.
Yeah, we have. We agonised over it for so long that we decided to stop agonising and just record some more. And
And see what came out.
yeah, I came up with a simple example.
Fire away. Let's
So
start with that.
so-
I really liked it.
My example was, I want to get up and do it because that's how I did it. But if I do that, you won't be able to hear me. So I won't. And my example was this. Me knocking on your door, you answering the door and saying, "Hi Kevin, how are you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bugger this, I had a really bad and this happened and that happened and I'm so angry," and stomping around your house. And that's it really, nothing else. Not talking about what was going on, just like an avalanche.
It sounds terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. Even I think it is now. Or the way that I would approach it now, which is knock on your door, and you answer the door and say, "Hi Kevin," and I say, "Hi Janine," and you say, "Hi, how are you?" Well, yeah, not great. I'm pretty angry actually. There's this guy down the road. He backed out of his driveway and tried to blame me. It was just a silly thing, and I got angry, and feel angry, so I just drove off and left him to it, and sat in the car for a while and thought about it, and yeah, felt okay. Just let it go, and now here I am.
So the difference is that you're talking about what's happening for you rather than acting it out.
Yeah, I used to think. Can be anything. Could be with anxiety. Could be with grief. Could be with joy. I used to think that expressing it was me just vomiting it out. I thought I had no idea. Why would I? I'd spent my formative years, being abused, sexually abused, and then as a drug addict for 12 years. So when I came into recovery, I had to learn everything. I sit in meetings and I hear people say, "I've learned how to cook. I now have a shower every day." And these are early days,
Yeah,
it goes on
yeah.
and on and on and on. Because we didn't do those things. We didn't have any kind of structure, and we certainly didn't have any respect for ourselves. So that's a growing thing.
And no structure around understanding emotions. And I have heard people, and I will hear people talking about, well, I'm just expressing myself. And,
Yeah.
and they're really pissed off. And it's like, is that how you express yourself? Please don't express yourself
But
anymore.
they're not expressing themselves.
They're not.
Well, not in my opinion anyway. They're not expressing themselves because I can look back and see what I was like. And I was just either screaming at the person I thought was to blame, or I was telling someone like you or another friend, but the way that I was telling it was being angry over them, which isn't okay.
Yeah.
I've had multiple friends say, "Can't cope with that."
Yeah.
And it took me a long time, which is what we were talking about. It took me a long time to realise that had to do with connection, that when I was like that, I was totally disconnected. It took some serious events for me to actually start questioning it and try and work out what expressing my feelings meant, as opposed to just being, there's a word and I can't think about it, taken over by them.
Yeah.
even though the event that I'm talking about may have gone, just reliving it again and again and again.
So
that's very different from actually expressing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So the awareness of the feelings is really important, though.
Yeah.
So it's not like you need to discard your feelings. That wouldn't be healthy. That wouldn't be okay.
No.
And the anger in itself is fine, but it's going to what's underneath the anger.
Yep.
And listening to the more primary emotions, but also originally just talking about the anger until you can explore what's underneath.
Yeah, I got another example. I've early in recovery, like literally the first couple of weeks, and I found this guy, and he's about my age, physically my age, but he'd been in the fellowship for 20 plus years by then or something like that. And I was angry, and I just angried all over him. And I didn't say hello or goodbye, I just angried all over him. And I put the phone down, and many years later, he reminded me about that phone call and said, when I put the phone down, I had to seriously think about whether or not I could cope with you, because there was no way to be with you. You were just so angry, and I decided that I could do it, and which I'm grateful for, for his friendship. And yeah, all of those things led up to me becoming aware of what I was doing. Slowly, though, that was a long time ago.
I think that awareness just continues to happen. I mean, I've been the person, I've not struggled with anger like you have, or certainly not in the way.
Why not?
Whoa, yells out. But certainly anxiety. And I can think of times when, I remember when I went to work, I was working at a local place, and I had gone upstairs and the coordinator of the centre was there, and I walked in and went, "Oh, Susie, how about this needs to be done, and I've put these things here, and you can look on the computer and you'll find that under this file and that file there." And then I went back to my desk, and then I went, "Oh, shit, I didn't say hello." So
yeah.
I went back
so similar.
and went,
yeah.
"Hello, Susie, let me do that one again.
Yeah.
How are you?" And stopped. I'd obviously been overthinking about what needed to happen to work, that I didn't even come in and start settling myself and saying hello to anybody before I started working, and I was onto it, and it's not kind, it's not respectful, and they weren't my intentions to be unkind or disrespectful, but it certainly can present that way, and it can be hurtful to people.
But there's that seemingly teeny little bit in there that you just talked about, which is you went back to your desk and you thought, "Oh, what I just did, not okay," or how. That's the awareness, which is, to me, is the connection with myself, and I can't have a connection with you or with anybody else unless I've got that connection with myself. So what we're calling that awareness is also that internal connection.
And it's what I would call sensitive listening to yourself. I think it's really funny that people often want people to be sensitive to them and to be listening to them and to be concerned with what's actually happening for them. And they're all good things, and that'd be great. We'd all love to be listened to. But if you don't bloody listen to yourself, how can you expect anybody else to listen to them?
Yep.
And the interesting thing is,
you should listen to me.
Okay. It's interesting because if a person absolutely wants to be listened to, and then if I've worked with people within counselling, and I'll go, "What do you want from them?" I want them to be affectionate to me or to kind to me and believe in me. And so then I might ask them, "So do you believe in yourself?
Yep.
Are you kind to yourself?"
Yep.
And the interesting thing is, they might laugh and go, "No." And the interesting thing is, if you're wanting that to come from your partner, how much of you, if they show you support and if they start believing in you that you can do this, how much of you is going to reject them because you don't believe in yourself? So you need the parallel of listening to yourself before you can really listen to others.
Oh
Does
my
that
God,
make sense?
you do that to me.
What do I do?
You know, I have absolute faith that you'll finish that book. You know, you're really good at what you do, and
yes, I
all
do.
sorts of things like that. And I'm on the phone, or I get off the phone, or I'm driving away from here or wherever I am, and I'm like, oh, really? I really have to work up myself, because I want to go to my default, which is, yeah, she's wrong.
But you would want to believe in yourself, wouldn't you?
Yes.
And there's a part of you
And
that does.
do a lot more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have this thing now that even when it's really bad, I have faith and trust in myself. And maybe this connection thing works on all sorts of levels, because that faith and trust in myself means that I can then extend that to other people. And it's like people saying,
Yeah.
when people say I love you, it's like, you can tell when people don't mean it. I can tell it. But you can tell when they mean it, because they say it from a place of loving themselves. They say it from a place of their heart.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So,
And children will know that.
yeah,
I've watched in welfare circles in my early days when I was late teens and early 20s, had different connections with welfare, community services, and you would see children where their parents would say, I love you, and they'd say all the right things, and you'd see the kid didn't believe them, didn't know it, was off doing anything. And then you'd see the respect that will come from some, and probably less words,
yeah.
but you'll see that the child feels loved, cared for, respected, and there hasn't always been the words, but it's there and it's present.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not words. I met somebody I hadn't seen for not long, a few weeks, and they were saying, in the middle of saying hello to me, and I just pushed my way into their arms and gave them a big hug, and they were, for a second they were quite taken aback, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to say that I'd missed them, you know, and all sorts of other things, and that's a really good way of expressing it.
I was telling you a story earlier on, Kevin, which I'll tell the listeners, that I have a dear friend who, after many, many years of knowing each other and being close friends and sharing some difficult and some valuable times together, she said to me, Janine, I love you. And she said, I don't tell many people, but I just want to tell you I love you. And it was so meaningful and so wonderful. And more recently we'd had a conversation and she said, love you, Janine. And I went, I love you too. And it was this beautiful moment. And that's a lovely connection, because even though it was over the phone, I felt present. I could feel that she was genuinely with her expression of her feelings. And that will stay with me.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay, Janine, go, we're back. Go. We're back, we're going, we're live.
That's my cue to speak then, Kevin?
Yes.
Oh, cool. I remember years ago. Oh my God. Shall I start again?
No, keep going.
Okay. I remember years ago when I was in counsellor training, the trainers asked for someone to volunteer to do a counselling session, and they'd call it a fishbowl. So someone would volunteer.
Fishbowl?
Yeah, because what happened is they'd get one of the trainers would counsel one of our students, and we always used real things that were happening for us, because they believed that as you work on yourself, you learn through that experience, and that's very experiential learning, which was wonderful. And so I went, yep, that's me. So I jumped up the front, quite confident, and started talking about an issue that I was having at the time with a particular relative. And the interesting thing is, as the trainer was talking to me, I started to shake. And I said, oh, I'm shaking. And he said, yes, you're vulnerable, talking about this. And I went, oh, no, no, I'm not vulnerable. I was quite confident and I was talking away, and he went, okay. So kept talking and I went, I'm still shaking. And he said, oh, you'd be vulnerable. And I went, no, not vulnerable. So my body started to shake. Took me friggin' years to respect that my body had more information than I did, that my head, in terms of talking, this is what I needed to say and this was what was important, and it's not a big thing, but my body was telling me it was a big thing. It was very confronting and I felt unsafe. And the fascinating thing is, in terms of connecting with myself, I think that's made me, again, I think I've said it before, a better counsellor, a better friend, a better mother, a better partner, all of those things, I hope. And that you cannot be truly connected if you're not present. And in order to do that, you need to be aware of your feelings. And that's why the feelings are so important, because otherwise they can end up ruling you. And if I'm not aware that I'm anxious, that will actually take me away from being here with you. If I'm not aware that I'm angry, it's going to take me away from being here with you. And I need to address that thing in some way, even if it's just to say, I'm anxious about this thing. I've walked in and I'm still really stressed about work, and let me just park it. Now, let's see, what are we going to do tonight?
Yeah.
And how are you going?
And that thing about the difference between our minds and our bodies, like body remembers it all. You just gave a great example, when you start talking about it, your body doesn't know the difference between you talking about it. It's reliving it basically,
is.
yeah. To
Absolutely.
some extent, it's reliving it, yeah.
Yeah.
So really important to be aware of that. Otherwise, I just back in it again, as we've both described now. So yeah.
And there is a sense, as you start talking about the past, that your body does relive that part. I think that was a great point, Kevin.
Of course it was.
Yes, it was. And when you actually do relive it, that's why it's really important with some of those things to really go slow, to make sure you're in a safe space, telling someone who's going to be able to hear it. And if they can't hear it, that's okay. Sometimes some people can't. So it might be around going slower and noticing that, again, making a choice. So that would be my other thing. If I think about connection, there's a couple of things. I might be aware of my feelings and I can't quite do anything about my circumstances to get me out or to change the situation.
You need yell.
I might need yell. We all need a bit of yell.
Can't have him. It's mine.
What would he do if I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable in a circumstance?
Yeah, make it all bugger off.
Thanks, Yell. I like Yell's protection. Perhaps I might do it somewhat differently.
Really?
But my point would be that we've all got choice.
Yeah.
And being aware of my feelings is one aspect of it. So I might be a bit uncomfortable in the circumstances that I'm in. But I can choose to stay, or I can choose to go, oh, you'll be okay, Janine, hang in there, because you want this outcome, or you want to keep that relationship with that person, or you want to, or you'll address it later where you can. So it's got those components of awareness and listening to yourself and making a choice around addressing what I can.
Because I have the choice of not reacting, so that just on its own can give the other person a different experience, continues to give me a different experience, can possibly give them a different experience as well. And, and I love that. I don't know where I first heard it. It might have been from you. I can't remember. But
Must have been from me.
Oh, absolutely. I've probably heard it loads of times. And what happened was I heard it at that one time when I was ready to actually take it in. Is that I don't need to react ever.
Yeah.
And that I can take my time, and if I need to respond later on. It was you. Yeah, I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
The best information, I think, often will come at different levels in different ways. Oh, it just reminded me, I ran a course, Build a Better Self, which was a wonderful course, 10-week course, 2 hours a week, with the local community. And every 10 weeks I'd run it again, so I ran it about 4 or 5 times a year. And I would repeat the information, and the more I would repeat it, I would say it a little bit differently. And I remember giving this handout on stress after emergencies and looking at stress in our lives. And I remember reading the handout and went, oh my goodness, look what that says. Oh, that makes sense. And I've been handing this handout for years, and this is the first time I'd actually read it and heard it differently myself.
Yep.
What am I saying?
It can take a long time.
It can take a long time.
It takes as long as it takes, which is where we got to before we started doing this bit, which is it's kind of difficult to talk about connection, because how do you talk about connection to somebody who is having trouble with that?
I know. There's a lot of focus on mindfulness, but to be mindful again is a tricky thing to try to explain. What I had been taught in terms of my counsellor training, which had a profound effect on me personally as well as professionally, was around noticing. So noticing myself, noticing what's happening for me, noticing those around me and the surrounds and the patterns and cycles that actually occur. And that's the same thing.
So I think we're done.
I think we've again had a good go at starting the conversation around connection. I think it'll pop up in all the other.
It was a difficult one. Can you all give us some feedback? Oh yeah, I need to talk about feedback. I'm sick and tired of not getting any feedback and people just saying things like, "Yeah, I listened to one. Yeah, great. Tell us what you think."
No, Kevin, you can't say that.
Yes, I can. I just did.
No, you can't.
I did.
No, you can't.
I did, didn't I?
There's no there's no platform. And they've got to go searching for any place to do feedback.
Well, you can just cross all that out, because apparently you can't give us any feedback. But if you're a friend listening to it, then you could give us some feedback.
If you got cranky with them about not giving you feedback,
no, I haven't. I have not got cranky with them.
Okay, I think we're talking to Yell again.
So, feedback.
Forget
all you people out there. I won't say any more. That's probably enough, isn't it?
We'll look forward to chatting to you again.
Yeah, soon.
In a very connected way.
Yeah, but we won't be talking to you if you haven't given us feedback.
Okay. I'll be talking to Kevin after the podcast.
I won't be listening.
We'll be doing some grounding exercises. We'll be considering connected to ourselves. That might be a good idea. I could see that could be workful.
No, I'll have to go and play with Asher.
Okay. That might be one way to ground. I'll catch you on the flip side.
Okay, bye-bye. I'm back again. This is Kevin. Actually, it's not. It's Yell.
Yeah, I didn't think it was Kevin.
Yeah, Janine's forced me to come back here.
I forced. I love the language of Yell.
And tell you. What am I supposed to tell them? I've forgotten.
Something about that they should appreciate.
Oh, that's right. You should appreciate what we're doing. It's really difficult. And we've got to the bit where it's a grind. And the nitty-gritty. And it's a grind, so you better keep listening.
Well, that's Yell's opinion.
It is.
Is there another opinion there?
You mean from here?
Yeah.
I think my opinion is the same as when we started. I just like doing this. Yeah. Don't listen to him, listen to me.
So we did have a decision earlier on, is that if we didn't get many listeners, if we found that it wasn't working, then if we're having fun,
we'd keep doing it.
Then we'd keep doing it.
Yeah, that's where we started.
And if you think about that in terms of connection,
yeah,
then that's really a wonderful goal, really.
And the kind of energy that we're putting out there, it's people are going to listen, whether it's today or tomorrow, or next month or next year, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So listen.
Can Yell just take a back seat for a moment?
No.
Oh, God. Oh, listeners, have mercy on me after the podcast, because I'll be talking with Yell. I'll be having a serious chat with Yell.
Okay, we're done. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.